Library of Congress. That's right, the Library of Congress. Do you know what the Library of Congress is? Well, see, you notice how every time you get a book, every time you read a book, there's always a page at the beginning that has its Library of Congress number. That's right. In fact, I think even the books I wrote may have one. I don't know, though. My books have an ISBN number, but a lot of other books, though, have a Library of Congress number. But the Library of Congress, you see, according to the internet, it's a research library of the United States Congress. That's what it is. And you know, it's a very important institution, and every time it's mentioned, it always brings back memories of something that happened in high school. Something funny that happened in high school. My freshman year. Of course, this was when I went to Bishop Brossart High School. They hated Bishop Brossart High School. That's right. I went to the hated Bishop Brossart High School when I was a freshman. Terrible, terrible school, as you all know. And I remember when I was a freshman, something funny regarding the Library of Congress happened. Because we were required to take study skills class. That's right, we were. And it was a class on study skills, on how to study and that type of stuff. It was a mandatory class at Brossart. But anyway, one time they had the teacher had a speaker from the Library of Congress in class to talk to us about what the Library of Congress does. And guess what happened? While the speaker was in the room, guess what happened? Guess what happened that gave this guest speaker a really good impression of Bishop Brossart High School? Can you guess what happened? Something really funny happened in class that I'm sure made a lasting impression on this guest speaker. This guest speaker, he's a very dignified man. You know, he looked like a typical professor, you know. He was a beard and glasses, probably about 50. You know, very, very professor-looking guy. You know, very, very academic. He was a very dignified academic type of guy. Very soft-spoken. You know, like an old professor. But anyway, he was. What do you think happened in class that gave him that forever influenced his impression of Bishop Brossart High School? Something really funny happened. Can you guess what it was? Can you guess? Can you guess? That's right. Somebody ripped an LAP, a bunker blast. That's right. Somebody farted loudly. Somebody in our class farted visibly too, because there was this kid in our class who farted a lot. Well, he was one of many. I mean, there's a lot of kids in that class that farted a lot, but this one liked to make a big issue of it. And when this guest speaker from the Library of Congress was in our class, he was in our classroom, and the teacher was talking, and the speaker was standing. The guy from the Library of Congress was standing there, looking at the teacher while the teacher was talking. The teacher was a woman that year, but the Library of Congress guy was a man, and he was standing there just listening to the teacher talking. And then this kid in our class who farted, he did, and he went like this, and it was like one of these multi-syllabic farts, like one of those that was. It's not just. It was one of those like one of those that had that was like several notes of flatulence. That's right. And so when he did each note, he went like this. And so he made a big production of it, just because he thought it was cool. He went like this. And he would rise up with each beat. He would just rise up out of like that. And the teacher was talking while he did this, and the Library of Congress guy looked over at the kid and went like this. Like that. While the kid was farting, the Library of Congress guy looked over at him like that. He didn't say anything. He just looked over at him like that. It was so funny. This dignified old man was sitting there watching a student rip LAP bunker blasts in class. And just think of what this guy was thinking of our school right about now. And the same kid that did that, he did the same thing once in science class that year. And the teacher for science class was an old nun. And it was funny what happened. Because he did the same thing. The teacher in that class, the old nun, she had her back turned. This was in a science class. This is like chemistry and physical science and stuff. And the teacher, she had her back turned while she was writing on the board. And then the kid in class did this exact same thing. Then the teacher turned around and said, "That is so silly. That is so silly. And vulgar, really." She said that in front of the whole class. That is so silly. And vulgar, really. She said that. But, that was, something's going on out there. But that was what happened in science class. But anyway, the Library of Congress. And the other funny thing, in study skills class, when the guy from the Library of Congress came to class, somebody, it might have been me, I don't know. They asked him why Congress would collect a bunch of Sesame Street books, and raised the frightful prospect. Actually, they raised the hilarious prospect of members of Congress going into the Library of Congress and reading Sesame Street books. But actually, he said, well, Congress really doesn't have much to do with the Library of Congress. But actually it does, because according to the internet, the only people who are allowed to check out books... Now see, the general public can go into the Library of Congress and read books and look at books, but the only people who are allowed to borrow books from the Library of Congress are members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, their staff, Library of Congress staff, and certain other government officials. They're the only people. The members of Congress are among the few people who are allowed to check out books from the Library of Congress. That and the Supreme Court. Not even the president can do it. So see, even Ronald Reagan couldn't have gone in there and said, well, I'd like to check out Hop on Pop, or Richard Scarry's Book of Body Parts. See, even Ronald Reagan couldn't have done that. But it also says that other libraries, like regular public libraries around the country, can borrow books. It says, since 1902, libraries in the United States have been able to request books and other items through interlibrary loan from the Library of Congress if these items are not readily available elsewhere. So see, according to the Wikipedia, it says Library of Congress is a library of last resort. But they can't be borrowed by the regular patrons of the library. So that's the Library of Congress for you.